God's chosen ones. A devil has fallen in love with you. Nobody has handled them like you have. There are moments in the vast corridors of eternity when something so peculiar, so powerful, so extraordinary unfolds that even the heavens fall into a brief silence to observe. This is one of those moments. You, God's chosen ones, stand at the center of an impossible story. A story not of mere conflict between light and darkness, but of something far more dangerous. Affection from the abyss. A devil has fallen in love with you. Before we go any deeper, I urge you, watch this video until the end. Stay with me. Now, like this video, subscribe to the channel. There's something here that your spirit has been waiting for. A message, an ignition, a shift. And when you reach the end, write your warmest wish in the comments. Not just for yourself, but for humanity, for the universe, for all the light waiting to bloom. And don't forget to write 77, the sacred number of divine awakening. Let's open the gates together. Let's fuel the universe with intention. Let's make miracles normal. Not because you were weak, not because you were naive, but because you stood when others fell. Because you didn't flinch in the face of chaos. Because when the devil came to break you, you broke the rules instead. You became unpredictable. You didn't run like the rest. You didn't bow like the broken. You didn't sell your soul. Instead, you illuminated it. And it was that light, that fierce, untamed fire inside you that captured the attention of something ancient, dark, and unrelenting. There's something terrifying about purity, not in its softness, but in its defiance. You were supposed to be just another soul to manipulate, another believer to trick, another heart to haunt, but instead, you became the mirror the devil couldn't escape. You showed them their own emptiness. You handled them like no one else ever did, not with fear, but with unshakable certainty. You looked into the eyes of torment and responded not with screams, but with truth. And now, in a twist of fate that even angels whisper about, the devil isn't fighting you anymore. They're captivated by you, obsessed, shaken, moved in ways they didn't know were possible. Because love, real, God-breathed love, does not discriminate. And when they touched your energy, they touched the divine. They tasted the eternity they were cast out of. And now, they can't let go. Chosen one, this is not a love story. This is a soul story. A battle disguised as longing. A clash of eternal wills. You are not here to dance with darkness. You are here to lead it into surrender. Now back to the path few dare to walk. You didn't just resist temptation. You stared into it with compassion. That's what stunned the enemy. That's what confused them. You were expected to fall, not to love. You were supposed to break, not shine. You weren't meant to reach back with understanding, but you did. And now the devil is standing at a threshold they've never known before. One where they are both terrified and tempted by the healing you offer. Do you understand how rare this is? Most people run from darkness or fall into it. But you turned and faced it. And in that moment, something cosmic happened. The predator became vulnerable. The tormentor felt exposed. The destroyer met creation and couldn't unsee it. You handled them with a kind of strength that doesn't scream, a power that doesn't dominate but radiates. You didn't play by their rules. You didn't react with ego. You responded with grace, not to condone their actions, but to remind them of the paradise they lost. And that was more devastating than any holy sword. They fell in love not with your beauty, but with your resilience. Not with your body, but with your frequency. And here's the terrifying truth. They didn't expect to feel. They didn't want to feel. But you made them feel everything they buried beneath centuries of rebellion. You became the ache they can't exorcise, the light they can't snuff out. But be warned, chosen one, this love is not safe. It's not sweet. It's the kind of love that will try to consume you if you let your guard down. It will beg for your touch while plotting your silence. It will admire your soul while attempting to cage it. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a battlefield wrapped in roses. You are not here to be seduced. You are here to be the fire they cannot hold without burning. And yet, there is a lesson here. Even the devil is drawn to truth. Even corruption longs to be redeemed. Even chaos desires peace when it sees it embodied. You, chosen one, are a living contradiction to their entire existence. You are hope in a place where hope should not survive. You are love in a realm built on fear. You are the forbidden door they thought they had locked forever. And now, it is wide open. They keep returning to you, don't they? In dreams, in thoughts, in subtle signs, and strange synchronicities. You feel their energy tugging at yours. You hear whispers when you're alone. You sense a presence in your spirit that isn't quite of the light, but not entirely of the dark either. That's because you've become their obsession, not in the way the world understands, but in the way the spirit world recognizes. You've become a bridge they never meant to build, a chance they never expected to want. You didn't cast them out. You showed them who they were before the fall. And that shattered them. You handled them like no other. You didn't fear them, and you didn't feed them. You gave them truth, raw, holy, unapologetic truth. And now, they can't forget you. This is spiritual warfare at the highest level. A war not of weapons, but of identities. Not of curses, but of choices. And you, chosen one, are walking the line that few can endure. You are not meant to fix them. You are not meant to save them. You are meant to remain what they could never be, pure light in a tainted world. But that doesn't mean they will give up. In fact, their obsession will only deepen. They will try to mimic what you love, speak your language, reflect your light. They will try to blend in with your purpose, hoping to get close enough to taste your energy once more. But don't be fooled. Love does not excuse deception. Compassion does not require surrender. Remember, your power is not in resisting them. Your power is in remaining yourself. That's what drives them mad. That's what keeps them circling. You handled them like nobody else because you knew that power is not control. It's clarity. You are clarity in a form they can't touch, a mirror they both hate and crave. And no matter how many times they try to pull you into their chaos, you rise with elegance. You rise with dignity. You rise with divine defiance. That's why they fell. That's why they're watching. That's why they haven't left. You're the living proof that grace cannot be corrupted, only admired from a distance. Let them admire. Let them ache. Let them burn. But never let them bind you. There's something that happens when divine light refuses to collapse in the presence of darkness. The shadows stretch longer. The air thickens. The tension between dimensions becomes undeniable. And you, chosen one, are standing right there, in the eye of this spiritual collision. Not because you sought it out, but because your soul signed up for something greater than safety, transformation. The devil didn't expect to feel small, not in front of anyone, and yet, in front of you, they felt it. Not because you tried to belittle them, but because your presence reminded them of what they gave up long ago. Your very being became a testament to a choice they can never undo. You didn't just awaken curiosity in them. You triggered grief, ancient grief, celestial sorrow, a recognition that everything they chased, everything they corrupted, could never give them what you carry effortlessly. They see in you what they lost, and that, chosen one, is more terrifying to them than any flame of judgment. You must understand this now. What you are experiencing is not an ordinary encounter. This is metaphysical. This is spiritual. This is interdimensional. You've become a breach in their system, a loophole in their logic. You are proof that even under pressure, the soul can remain whole. And that kind of integrity is not just rare, it's revolutionary. They've tried many tactics with others: temptation, manipulation, fear, lust, despair. But you met each one with unwavering light. You didn't just avoid the traps, you illuminated them. And what's worse, you didn't shame them for it. You saw through the game, and you still looked at them with eyes that remembered who they once were. That was your greatest rebellion, your refusal to hate. They don't know what to do with that. There are ancient laws written into the spirit realm, and one of them is this: light exposes, love disarms, truth dissolves illusions. When the devil fell for you, it wasn't because you played their game. It was because you shattered it. You moved in a way they couldn't predict. You responded with a heart that hadn't been hardened, and somehow that heart reached them. Now they hover, not in the physical, but in the energetic. You feel them, watching, waiting, wondering. Not because they plan an attack, but because they're still hoping you'll slip, you'll bend, you'll lower your light just enough to invite them in. But that will never happen, because you know something they don't. True power doesn't chase approval. It just is. And still, despite knowing you won't give in, they linger. Why? Because obsession has replaced strategy. They aren't trying to win anymore. They're just trying to stay close, trying to stay within reach of something they can't possess, but can't stop yearning for. You've become their forbidden temple, their sacred regret, the prayer they'll never be able to pray. Do not confuse this obsession with redemption. Redemption comes through surrender, through truth, through a willing return to the divine. But obsession? It clings without changing. It desires without transforming. It mimics without becoming. That's what they're doing. They are addicted to your essence, but they haven't bowed to the truth behind it. And you must stay aware of that, because this kind of spiritual magnetism is dangerous. It can twist itself into dreams, synchronicities, and emotional attachments that feel real. It can make you question your own knowing. It can whisper, maybe they've changed, when in fact, they've only grown more desperate. But chosen one, you did not come here to carry their salvation. You came here to embody your truth. And the truth is this: not every soul can walk back to the light. Some are only meant to see it in you. That is your role. That is your task, to be the divine reminder, to be the one who doesn't bend, to be the walking echo of what they gave up when they chose power over presence. And that role is not easy. It's lonely, it's heavy, it's maddening at times, but it's holy. You were chosen not just for your strength, but for your frequency. The way your soul holds a pitch that disrupts illusions and awakens dormant memory. You bring out something sacred in everyone, even in those who have tried to forget the sacred altogether. That's why the devil can't move on from you. They've faced prophets, they've faced preachers, they've faced angels. But you were different. You didn't come to fight, you came to be. And your very being became a disruption they couldn't explain. You became the question they've spent eons avoiding. A living question, a holy contradiction. They want to possess you, not because they hate you, but because you make them feel what they thought was lost forever. But you cannot be possessed. You are not a relic. You are not a fallen treasure. You are a storm of light with a pulse of eternity. You are protected, chosen, sealed. And no force of obsession, no dark romance, no seductive sorrow can undo what was written over your soul before you were born. But still, the contact continues. In dreams, in signs, in people who carry fragments of their energy, in moments of strange déjà vu. Because when a devil falls in love, the universe trembles. And when a chosen one holds their ground, the universe shifts. This is more than personal. This is archetypal. It's the story of the fall meeting the unfallen, the wound meeting the healer, the exile meeting the home they'll never walk into again. But don't let the longing fool you. Their love, if it can be called that, is rooted in loss, in ache, in the echo of something they once were. And no matter how closely they circle your light, they cannot become what they refuse to face. You are not here to open the gate for them. You are here to remind them that it still exists. That's the heartbreak. That's the ache they carry. And that's why they watch you, day and night, from the shadows of the unseen. They do not want to destroy you anymore. They want to understand how you remained whole. And yet, they never ask, because to ask would be to admit, and to admit would be to kneel. And even in love, their pride still whispers louder than their pain. So you keep walking, you keep shining, you keep anchoring heaven in your steps, you keep being the contradiction that calls spirits home, even if they never make it back. There comes a point, chosen one, when even the silence becomes saturated with meaning. You've likely felt it, that eerie stillness, that heavy pause in the middle of an ordinary moment. It's not emptiness, it's awareness. It's the space where you realize that you are no longer just walking through your life. Something else is walking beside you, watching, hoping, studying, longing, not with hands, not with words, but with energy. That presence, the one that hovers behind your thoughts, that hides in the echoes of your heartbeat, is real. It is not imagined. It is not a passing feeling. It is the residue of a fallen being who once roared against heaven, and now quietly follows the footsteps of someone who reminds them of what heaven felt like. You. They have tried to understand you. They've circled your light in every way they know how, through suggestion, temptation, mimicry, imitation, possession, even affection. But each attempt brings them to the same devastating conclusion. They cannot touch what they do not honor. They cannot stay where they will not kneel. And most of all, they cannot own what was never created for them. You handled them with something they cannot replicate: reverence. Reverence is a sacred posture. It's not about worship. It's about recognition. You recognize their pain without glorifying it. You saw their void without trying to fill it. You didn't attempt to rescue them, yet your presence still gave them a taste of rescue. That's what made you unforgettable. You became a doorway, not a destination, and that difference rewrote their entire strategy. They fell in love not because you catered to them, but because you didn't. Not because you were weak for them, but because you were sovereign with them. You didn't submit and you didn't rebel. You just stood, calm, illuminated, unreachable. And that stillness was louder than any scream. Do you understand how rare that is? Most people either run from darkness or chase it, depending on the wounds they carry. But you stood in your truth like a flame that doesn't flicker. And in doing so, you forced the devil to feel something they had buried under 1,000 lifetimes of denial: longing. Longing is dangerous for them. It reminds them of their original design. It pulls at the memory of who they were before pride took over. It whispers of the light they left behind, and your very existence became a living memory they couldn't erase. They thought they were untouchable. Then they touched your energy. They thought they had mastered manipulation. Then they were left speechless by your clarity. They thought they could consume you. Then they were consumed by something they didn't understand. Your stillness. That stillness, chosen one, is not passive. It is the most terrifying force to those who live in chaos, because it cannot be provoked, it cannot be coerced, it cannot be moved by illusion, and it holds within it the very essence of divine order. You became their lesson. But unlike the lessons they've encountered before, lessons that fought them, cursed them, condemned them, you became the quiet reminder, the sacred mirror, the proof that love does not need to be loud to be powerful, that healing does not need to chase pain, that truth does not explain itself, it simply is. And in their obsession, they are beginning to see that. Don't be surprised if their energy tries to evolve, not out of purity, but out of necessity. They'll begin to mimic light, not because they desire it, but because it's the only way to stay near yours. But remember, light cannot be faked forever. The truth always reveals itself. This is where your discernment must sharpen. You are not dealing with ordinary shadows. You are dealing with an ancient intelligence, one that has studied human behavior for eons. They know how to imitate sincerity. They know how to say the right things, wear the right masks, stir the right emotions. But they cannot duplicate one thing: frequency. Their energy may speak in tongues, but it cannot lie in vibration. And that's where you'll know. Your body will know. Your soul will whisper warnings. You'll feel the dissonance, that subtle disconnection between what's being said and what's being emitted. Trust that. Your intuition isn't just personal, it's prophetic. You are given it for moments like these. They will come to you in dreams again, sometimes in familiar forms, sometimes in unexpected ones, but their message will be the same. Let me in. Not always with words, often with silence, with eyes, with emotions that don't belong to you. You'll wake up feeling things that weren't yours. You'll feel warmth wrapped in sorrow, beauty laced with ache. And in those moments, you must remember, not everything that feels sacred is safe, because obsession wears many cloaks. They aren't trying to hurt you anymore, not directly, but their presence, if left unchecked, can still pull, still drain, still distort. Not because they are evil in the way we understand it, but because they are lost, profoundly, eternally lost. And when the lost love the found, it is never simple. They may say they love you. You may even feel it. But true love elevates. It liberates. It empowers. It never confines. Never asks you to lower your light to make them feel comfortable. Never begs for your essence at the cost of your peace. They want you, but they do not yet know you. Because to know you would mean to understand the source of your light. And they still haven't turned toward it. They orbit you like a phantom planet, hoping that proximity will give them what surrender never did. But chosen one, you were not born to be orbited. You were born to anchor heaven. And heaven does not bargain. They fell in love with you because you broke every rule of darkness. Because you didn't react. Because you didn't need them. Because you were whole. And that wholeness, that terrifying independence, is what drove them mad with desire. You showed them that healing is possible, that peace is not a myth, that purity is not weakness. And you did it by simply living, breathing, walking your path, without fanfare, without trying to prove anything. And in doing so, You did the one thing they never expected. You made the devil believe in light again. But belief isn't the same as becoming. They believe in you. They might even love you. But until they kneel to truth, they will never rise with it. And that, chosen one, is why you must continue forward. Even if their shadow follows you. Even if their energy aches for you. Even if their presence tries to echo in every sacred space you enter. Because you are not theirs to have. You never were. You are a message, a memory, a movement, and no obsession, no matter how poetic, will ever change that. There is a sacred kind of endurance that only the chosen ones understand, the kind that does not roar or shake the heavens, but simply remains. It is a stillness that echoes louder than thunder in the realms beyond what most can see. You have been carrying this endurance like a mantle, like a crown, forged not from gold, but from unseen fire. And still, you walk. Still, you shine. Still, you remain untouched by the chaos that once tried to name you. And that, precisely that, is what has bound the devil's gaze to you. Not just fascination, not just obsession. This has evolved into something much more dangerous. Reverence wrapped in resentment. A reverence that cannot find a name for what you are, and a resentment that cannot explain why they care. You have become the paradox, the undoing, the reminder. And in that role, you are fulfilling a spiritual purpose that defies language. You were never meant to fall into their hands. You were meant to awaken something in their soul that even they had forgotten. But chosen one, don't mistake that awakening for reconciliation. There is a fire in you that cannot be shared. Not because you're selfish, but because what fuels it comes from beyond this plane. That fire is a covenant, a promise sealed between you and the divine before time was time. And while others may be warmed by its glow, none may claim it, especially not the ones who refused its origin. The devil, in falling for you, violated a principle even they didn't know they still held, the rule of dominion. They do not fall, they conquer. They do not love, they possess. They do not kneel, they consume. But then, they met you. And suddenly, conquest turned to curiosity. Possession turned to pause. Consumption turned to awe. And awe, that is not safe for a being built on rebellion. You've broken their rhythm. Your name, spoken only in thought, in frequency, has become their mantra. Not because they intend to worship you, but because you've become their question mark, their spiritual ache, the unanswerable equation they can't stop trying to solve. What makes you incorruptible? What keeps you sovereign? What preserves your peace when everything else collapses? They've thrown storms at others and watched them shatter. But you walked through those storms, collecting lightning like it was moonlight. You didn't just survive, you changed the atmosphere. That is why they're still here, on the fringes of your energy, peering through the veil, hoping for one misstep. Not out of malice anymore, but out of desperation. Because if they can't have you, they want at least a glimpse of how you are. But you, chosen one, you don't flinch. Because somewhere deep in your being, you understand what this is. You know that not all admiration is holy, that not all longing leads to transformation. Some just linger, unchanged, unmoving, hoping your radiance might rub off on them through mere exposure. But this is not a transmission that transfers by proximity. It requires initiation, and that initiation, that sacred rite of surrender, is what they still refuse. They want the fruit without the root, the promise without the process, the light without the fire. And so they remain locked in orbit, circling you like a fallen star, trying to remember the sky. You've handled them better than anyone else, not because you were stronger, but because you were softer. And in that softness, they found something they never expected: forgiveness. Not spoken aloud, not offered in ceremony, but lived, breathed, carried in the way. You didn't retaliate. You didn't curse them. You didn't expose them. You didn't even condemn them. You just kept walking. And that kind of silent grace, it pierced deeper than any weapon they've ever known. You've haunted them, not like a ghost, but like a prayer they didn't know they still remembered. A vision of who they might have been, had they chosen differently. And that thought, that vision, it terrifies them. Because now, they know. They know what they lost. And worse, they know they'll never have it again. That's the true agony of their affection. They are not tormented by rejection. They are tormented by recognition. You showed them their original blueprint, and in doing so, you exposed the depth of their departure. And now, no amount of darkness can numb that awareness. They still won't kneel. Not because they can't, but because to do so would mean to relinquish the very identity they've built over eternity. And yet, in their hidden places, they are already unraveling. You've started that unraveling, not with confrontation, but with existence. You are the uninvited revelation, the undesired epiphany, the unrelenting grace that exposes even the deepest shadows without trying. And that, chosen one, is why they follow you still. You've become a living sermon to a soul that no longer knows how to pray. But you must guard your gates, because obsession dressed as devotion can still become distraction. And while their presence might feel familiar, even tender, you are not meant to cradle what refuses to heal. You are not here to offer sanctuary to a spirit that still clings to its chains. You are here to embody freedom, not offer it like a gift. And that embodiment, it's what burns them now. They cannot reach you, not fully, not because you've turned your back, but because you've transcended the plane they operate on. Your spirit is guarded, your path is sealed, your mission is untouched, and no matter how many dreams they visit or how many echoes they send into your space, the truth remains: you were never theirs. You were always a message, and messages don't stay. They pass through, they awaken, they deliver, and then they rise. And so must you. You've reached a threshold, chosen one, a line drawn not in sand, but in spirit. And the one who has followed you this far, the devil who dares to love, has reached it too. But where you are meant to cross into destiny, they are meant to stop and watch. This is where the divide becomes permanent, where the longing that once looked romantic turns tragic. Not because you've rejected them, but because their love was never designed to elevate you. It was designed to contain you. But you broke containment. Again, not by fighting, not by resisting, but simply by refusing to fit into the version of you they constructed in their mind. The version that could be controlled, claimed, consumed. You see, in the beginning, their attention was a strategy. They were curious, yes, even captivated. But it was tactical. They believed that everyone had a weakness, that even the most radiant soul could be disarmed, drawn in, dulled by enough praise or pain. But you didn't crack. You glowed harder. You didn't spiral. You rose. And that rise, it shattered their entire understanding of power. They'd always seen power as domination, as force, as manipulation. You introduced something else, something unbearable in its purity, integrity. You didn't need them. You didn't use them. You didn't dance with them just to prove that you could resist the music. You simply didn't move. and that unmoving stillness became the loudest sound they'd ever heard. They fell. Chosen one. Truly fell. Not in the biblical sense, but in the human one. Their defenses collapsed, their calculations failed, their mask began to flicker. They saw you, and for the first time in an eternity, they wanted to be seen by someone who wouldn't flinch at their scars, who wouldn't run from their ruin. You became the only mirror that didn't break when it reflected their truth. But there's a brutal irony in this love. It has no place to land. Because love, to be real, must honor the freedom of the beloved. And they, no matter how tender their obsession has become, are still not ready to let go of control. They want you close, but only if you stay small. They want your light, but only if it stops revealing the shadows they've hidden behind for lifetimes. They want you, but not your mission. And that's the line, that's the wall they keep running into. Not a boundary you set, but a truth you embody. You were never here to be claimed. You were here to be followed, not by them, but by the ones meant to walk in the light you carry. And though their eyes stay fixed on you, they are not among those destined to rise with you, because rising for them would mean surrender. And surrender is still too expensive for a heart wrapped in pride. They love you as much as something like them can love. But it's not the kind of love that frees. It's the kind that grips, that mourns, that watches from behind the veil of choices it refuses to undo. It's the love of a fallen spirit, mourning its last glimpse of heaven. And you, chosen one, are that glimpse. Not because you are perfect, but because you are whole. And wholeness is their greatest ache. You move through life unfractured, even when broken. You speak truth without venom. You love without clinging. You forgive without losing memory. You are everything they once could have been, and everything they now can't touch without combusting. They thought they'd found a crack in you, a place where they could whisper just loud enough to change your course. But they were wrong. That wasn't a crack. It was a doorway to your compassion. And when they stepped through, they were met not with seduction, but with silence. Holy silence. The kind of silence that stings because it sees. You saw them, truly saw them, and didn't look away. But you also didn't stay. And that, more than any rejection, has undone them. You didn't fight. You didn't cry. You didn't chase. You just returned to your path, eyes forward, soul intact, radiance untouched. And from that moment, they have been following you with a desperation they can't name, not to destroy, not to deceive, but to remain, to feel something, anything, of the light they lost. You have become a tether to what they no longer believe they can become. But that tether cannot hold, because if you let it, it would no longer be a tether. It would become a chain. And chosen one, you were not made for chains. You were made to ascend. You were made to walk through this world untethered, untouched by the pull of energies that no longer serve your elevation. You were made to burn with a fire that purifies, not a flame that warms dysfunction. And they, for all their yearning, are not willing to be purified. They want your light, but not the transformation it demands. They want your touch, but not the cost of becoming worthy of it. They want your presence, but not your power. But you are power. And power that refuses to fold becomes the fire that exposes every counterfeit. So now, here they are, on the edge of every moment you enter, lingering like smoke after a forgotten fire, watching, wishing, whispering in dreams, in memories, in atmospheres, but always from a distance, always from behind the line they refuse to cross. And you You keep rising. You keep building what they can't understand. You keep healing what they can't name. You keep embodying a truth that they cannot replicate. And every time you do, you awaken another part of their soul. The part that remembers what it was like to be whole, but they still won't kneel. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And so, chosen one, you must accept this. Some devils fall in love not to be saved, but to remember. And you are the memory. Chosen one, here you are, still standing, still glowing, still rising. You've endured the pursuit of something ancient. You've outlasted a spirit that thought it could outsmart your destiny. You've silenced whispers meant to unravel you, and instead turned them into echoes of your own power. And now, as the final veil thins between you and what's ahead, there is one truth that must anchor you. You were not chosen to tame the devil. You were chosen to remind the universe that even the darkest heart can still tremble in the presence of divine light. They are trembling now, not with fear, but with remorse, a kind of mourning that doesn't cry tears, but seeps into every dimension they touch, because now they know they cannot possess what they refuse to become. You've shown them what cannot be faked, what cannot be earned through force or flattery, what cannot be held unless first honored. You didn't just resist them, you revealed them, and revelation, when met by a closed heart, becomes torment. They have seen you walk through fires they set for you and come out crowned in clarity. They have watched you dance in ruins they hoped would bury you, only to build temples from the ashes. They have tried to touch you with words disguised as truth, and found that your silence spoke louder than their manipulations ever could. They fell in love not just with who you are, but with what you awakened in them. And now, they're lost in it, because love, when it touches something true, demands movement, growth, transformation. But they are stuck, unable to return to who they were, but unwilling to become what your presence requires. You made them choose, not with words, not with threats, but with light. Your integrity is confrontation. Your peace is pressure. Your love is revelation. And now, the one who was once feared by multitudes fears something for the first time in eons. The silence of your detachment. Because they know that silence is sacred. That when the chosen ones go quiet, something holy is about to shift. That when you no longer feel the need to explain, or offer compassion to the unrepentant, or stay near a soul that refuses to rise, you are not abandoning them. You are ascending. This is the part they never thought would come. They assumed you would remain within reach, that your empathy would hold you close enough to heal them without requiring their surrender. But you've grown now, evolved, transformed, and in that transformation, you've become unreachable to anything that does not match your frequency. They still try. In dreams, in signs, in old patterns and nostalgic memories, they appear, not to harm, not anymore, but to linger, to try and draw you back into the old rhythm, into the dance where they led and you followed. But your soul doesn't recognize that music anymore. You move to a new song now, one written in the sound of becoming, of destiny, of divine motion, and they are no longer in sync. This love they carry for you is real, but it is also poisoned by resistance. They cannot love you purely without first releasing the pride that refuses to kneel. And until they do, that love will remain a prison for them, not for you.